Hi everyone. I don't know if it went live when I was wiping away the matchsticks from right there. I'm just gonna chill out today and talk to you. It's been a long time since I've come on live and I've committed to go on live and talk to you guys and do so unscripted, and it's been a long time. Firstly, because to be quite honest with you, it's just me talking to myself. And secondly, there was just so many things that I was wanted to talk to you about, and I also wanted to keep to the ABCDs. So the next would be O, and then there was P, and there were so many words. So I decided I wanted to talk today about the word overcome and the word protest, and then everything that goes with it. As you can see, my dog is awake right there because he realizes I'm talking to somebody that isn't him. And if you, in case you're wondering what the blue sheet right there on which she's laying, it's not a pillow, it's the other dog. Yeah, she prefers the covers because she doesn't like being cold, and it's really hot where I am right now, and so the air conditioning is on. Anyway, that was kind of a visual segue. Speaking of segues, I really enjoyed the fact that all of the comedians and all of the talk show hosts who are now broadcasting on YouTube are doing so with perfect attire, waist on up, because Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert. Hats off to you for admitting it. I just want others to as well. Trevor Noah, I would love for you to come out and say that you are not wearing pants. That's just me. Anyway, so overcome and protest. What is happening in the world, right? I mean, one of the reasons why I didn't make any videos, not just because no one's really watching me except for me, is that there's so much happening. There's really so much happening, and there's so much death. There's so much destruction. There's so much breaking of the status quo completely. And it's not being done by the protests, really. It's the protests are one of the elements of what's doing it. It's actually this societal house of cards, right? When a paradigm is built on hypocrisy, it collapses over time. It doesn't stand. It's kind of like the old biblical story of the Tower of Babel, or Babel, however you want to pronounce it. I pronounce it Babel because in contemporary culture, the word Babel has some meaning. Some of you might attribute what I am doing to Babel, which is perfectly fine with me because sometimes I think that. And that's why it takes me so much time to come back around and talk to you about what I believe I need to convey to you at a time when I think it's relevant. Uh, so overcoming this struggle, overcoming this, what we're facing today, the oppression of Black people in America, the oppression of the poor people in other parts of the world. Where I live in India, there's this caustic silence about what's going on, But stuff is going on. Where I am, we were hit by a cyclone a couple of months ago, and some things are going on, but no one really, and partially maybe because 2 months ago, I just cut myself off from, not 2 months, feels like 2 months, it was like more like 2 weeks ago. I cut myself, maybe not even 2 weeks, maybe a week. See what I mean? Like, that's how addictive life has become, and consuming life has become, in spectating somebody else's life, or in spectating what's going on in this like twilight zone of the world that we're living in right now. So how do we overcome it and get back to reality? Because the reality is, as we are figuring out, is not going to be anything like what it was December of 2019, when I started this little babbling session, and also made a comment that we would be wearing masks, and masks would become fashion because of authoritarianism. I didn't say pandemics. I said authoritarianism. And I mean, Brazil, the United States, India, but India is not. Those are the three. Those are the three highest numbers right now in coronavirus around the world. And India, if it was an authoritarian regime and not really chaotic, messy, yet functioning democracy, would have been would have at least had 3 times as much as the United States has dead now. So something is working here, and it may be society understanding, or it also or it may be something to do with where it is latitudinally because of the sun and it's the UV, or it could be because of the immune system of the common people who are constantly exposed to pathogens, because India is really not the cleanest country in the world, as those of you may know who have come here. So look at me, I'm recycling by reusing. It's a fizz bottle. Little steps. We have to take little steps. We have to be ever conscious. One of the things that we have to do to overcome this is we have to be ever conscious. That's a way of protesting to the status quo, because the status quo wants you to follow standardization, an industrialized understanding of a Ford-type assembly line way of thinking, which works in some instances, in many instances, majority of instances, but doesn't work all the time. So if we are to get to our full potential as a society and our full potential as individuals, we have to be able to cultivate consciousness, our consciousness. We have to be able to cultivate how to discern between fact and fiction. We have to understand that at some point, if we do as something as seemingly benign as just throwing away your plastic bottles and buying more and never thinking about it, think about it. If you are watching this and if you've gotten to 8 minutes, thank you so much. Please like and subscribe and think about it. So that's the first step of overcoming it, is getting yourself to reality, getting yourself to the reality consciousness of, everything you are eating. You're not making it. You're not creating it. Number one, you're not manufacturing it. You're not producing it. You're not cultivating it. You're not even killing it if it's meat or whatever. You're just picking up a package, putting it on the pan, cooking it, if you're cooking it at all, unless you're getting it from somewhere. So, I mean, how detached do you think you are from the process of what is going into your body and where it's coming from? And things that are just that fundamental, you should get to that point. And you'll say, how can we do that in a society where we have to keep on doing this? Well, don't. That's why you're protesting, right? So, I mean, if you are going out to protest and you're spending all day, all of your energy in standing there and letting the world know, it's doing volumes by speaking volumes to many. Yes. However, if with that mentality of protest, with that level of solidarity, you could channel that protest into constructive action, where you come to that realization that no, we as a community are going to go back to understanding where our goddamn food came from. And we're going to start building gardens, and we're going to start building community gardens. And there'll be community gardens on our property, in our neighborhood. And slowly over the course of a few months, because these protests have been going on now for months, if there was even one group of protesters who started their protest for all of the Black people being oppressed, for all of the innocent children on the south side of Chicago who have been killed, keep getting killed, even as we speak, the gun violence, the deaths happening. If people who were protesting, even one group of them, would have started a community garden, food garden at that time, by now there would have been food. By now there would have been vegetables that would have been supplementing the income, supplementing the food of these families, of this community, therefore reducing their dependence on the grid, that is reducing their carbon footprint by a tomato is a lot, is a first step. It's a difficult first step, but so is walking, but we have to do it. Otherwise we'd be sitting around all our lives. And I love sitting. As you can see, I'm like half sitting and half laying down. My feet are up in the sky. And I'm lazy as hell. But I also wake up at 4 a.m, and this has been happening over the last 4 years because of my dogs, because I have to take them out, feed them. Then I started doing, and it brought into a routine. And we need to be able to change our routine, evolve our routine, and completely redirect our routine. And do all of that in this time of tumult, in this time when we can really take that protest and put it to the ground and put the seeds of protest literally all around us. And then what happens 3 months from now? You just have these community gardens, these common properties. And as a community, as a ward, as a neighborhood, you decide you just want to be able to manage them. So you put picket fences around that are common, that allows people to walk through, and you even start charters among neighborhoods in a building that allows that building or that property. And why do I say building? Because you can farm now, urban. You can go aquaponic. You can go agroponic, and it's cheaper and easier than you think. Just look it up on Google. Look it up on YouTube. It is cheaper. It is cheaper than you think, and it's doable. I have a really close family friend / brother who is putting into action the hydroponic project in the refugee camps and in the lower income group neighborhoods and communities in Bangladesh through Kodak, which is a nonprofit in Bangladesh. And once he actually implements the plan and the pilot comes to fruition, which I'm hoping will be in the next 3 months, I will talk about it because I'm so very happy and humbled by how amazing he is and the work that he's been doing. So we'll talk about him when the project comes to fruition, and what's happening with the Rohingya people in that area. Don't think that I forgot about the Rohingyas. It's coming. Element of P. Then there's Q. I don't know what I'm going to talk about with Q. This might take a while. Then I may talk about the Rohingya. Yeah. So so once you have those picket fences and have the charters that this is common community property, you realize that you can put into the charter and come to a common agreement that the governmental, whether it be local, state, or federal, cannot walk into that community property without a warrant. and that warrant requires probable cause. So, I mean, if you're suspecting that the government is surveilling you anyway, and even if you're not, and you have cameras at your intersection, and you think they're only taking pictures of your car going by, or if you haven't heard news that your computer camera, this one, when your camera is on, or your computer's off and the camera is off but the computer's open, can be used by somebody to hack into your private space. I think you're living in a time that is gone. But maybe it's okay. I mean, maybe what I'm talking about is just a conspiracy theory. I am one of my biggest teachers in my life taught me that, I may be wrong about everything that I think and say, and I welcome anybody who wants to prove me wrong. So once you do that, you have just taken back, by community, by neighborhood, by building, by family, your Fourth Amendment right. A right that was effectively has dissolved because of the war on drugs, because of and which was propelled by the Reagan administration. I thought he was the one who really started it, because that's when all the lawsuits started to come in. And so when I was in law school, I that's when, like, Terry v. Ohio, and I forget all of it. Terry v. Ohio is the nightmare case that's still, it's a reasonable suspicion case. It's the reason why people can stop and frisk, and that's the Supreme Court's, a conservative Supreme Court's activist opinion that that police can stop you for just having a reasonable suspicion that there might be criminal activity afoot. And this, trust me, I took this class in 2005, and so it's been a while. And I'm not a practicing attorney, never have been. I just graduated from law school, realized after externing with the prosecutor's office that the law was broken, the procedure was broken. I have never, ever voted for a judge in an election because I think that the process of getting a judgeship, there needs to be some reform, but it definitely should be a nomination by a bicameral legislature, because that's what maintains the balance of power. I don't know about life sentences. That's a way of looking at it. Life terms. But that's another topic, right? So when you take back your Fourth Amendment right, you realize you have taken that protest and you have grown it, and you have reasserted your Fourth Amendment right. You have effectively debilitated Terry v. Ohio. Because, yeah, they may be able to stop and frisk you when you walk out onto the main intersection, and that's fine. There are cameras everywhere. Everyone's looking. But they're not going to be able to harass you when we're going to go and get your food. They're not going to be able to harass you, and they're not going to be able to frisk you. They're not going to be able to stop you. They're not going to be able to abuse you, where you want to feel safe in your community. They're not going to be able to do that if you do this. If you do this, in the next 3 months, the protests will become a society that reasserts its constitutional rights. Because, the rights are there. We have to assert them. Equality is ours. We have to assert it. We have to assert it. We don't have to fight for equality, because equality is ours. We were born equal. Whether we were born, with Down syndrome, or whether we were born gay, or whether we were born women, whether we were born animals, we all have a dignity. Whether we were all, and that dignity is equal. Whether we are plants, that's how universal that equality is. That's how grand the paradigm of equality and taking care is. That's why people throughout history have said that keeping your house clean, your house is your temple. Keeping your house clean is cleanliness, is godliness, because it applies that dignity of existence applies to everything, not just to you personally, not just to what you possess, not just to what you own or have given birth to, but also to what you use and who you use, everything. And only when you give dignity to that will it realize within yourself. So that equality has to come from within. And that protest has to be in the form of fruition, of fruitful protest. Planting a literal seed, building a garden, building a fence, and saying, no, that's where you will stop. That is where my constitution, and pin up a constitution and stick it right there. Make a picket fence out of constitutional phrases if you have to. Because that is your hallowed ground. And you have that right under the Constitution of the United States of America. And I'm talking about the United States of America because in my soul, that's where I came into being. My body is Indian. And to that end, I am here and there. And it's, for a long time, I thought it was tearing me apart, but I just had to expand my mind and realize that I am both, and I'm in both places, and I want to thank the gentleman, and I don't know the name, the gentleman who I spoke with at the U.S. Embassy in New Delhi recently, who gave me that confidence that in the way that he spoke and the way that we communicated as Americans, politically, not by, we didn't even name any names or parties, anything. It was completely about something that I had to talk about my citizenship services. And the communication was so uniting and it was so understanding that it was like, all right, okay. So even if there's that, at least there's that one person who, that American officer who, okay, all right, it's going to be all right. And so to all the police officers out there who are good, it's time for you to take action too. It's time for you to start saying that, no, even if I am the only one in the room of 80 people who sees a kid come in and is being intimidated to drop a complaint that he had filed for police harassment in a police station of 80 cops in a police coffee room. That was me. In Chicago, they intimidated me out of the complaint that I had lodged against them. I thought I was being called in to talk about an apology. No. How stupid I was. And that was a while ago too. That was like in 2010. I wrote about these things, I'm over it. But the world is now seeing. So 23 minutes, one person watching, which I think is me, or my camera, or somebody else. Anyway, please interact with me. Please like, subscribe if you want to. You don't have to. Dislike. You can dislike. You can tell me why you dislike. All right? Take care. I love you. Be safe.